Weeks 1-8. Back to that debate, though, for Tom Brady specifically. He's registered a QBR of 62 when Brown is on the field and 72 when he's off the field. So, Key, why has the offense looked worse when adding a piece like Antonio Brown into the mix?
You know, it's tough. Like, as Dan would tell you, you got receivers that you may have to try to get the football to. But here's what I would say. No, here's what I would say. I think it just happens to be the situation. I just don't think that they're in rhythm. I think that's what it is. They're trying to, there's too many toys, and I said this at the beginning of the year, or when they signed Antonio. When you have so many good players, you're almost forced, Byron Leftwich is almost forced to have to figure out how to keep everybody happy. And it falls on Tom Brady. Tom Brady is not used to having 5 and 6 different weapons to deal with. So now you're forcing him to have to look at everybody. On top of that, they've played good teams now. Yeah. It's not like they played a bunch of bums. You think about the Saints and the Chiefs and some of these other teams that they've played. But I know one thing. This is a must-win against the Minnesota Vikings, or they will find themselves looking on the outside in Tampa and somebody else playing in their stadium come Super Bowl Sunday.
They're currently 7-5, Dan. What are your thoughts on what you just heard Key say?
Yeah, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can throw it around the lot to all those receivers doesn't mean you should. Having wide receiver talent is an intoxicating mistress. You know, like you see all those pretty wide receivers out there. You see it all and you're like, man, I just want to throw it all the time. Your identity is wrong. You play football outside in Tampa Bay right now. I've been saying it all year. Play it inside out. Put the multiple tight ends on the field. That's what you do best. Why? Because your run game becomes a bigger part, and then you're more apt to utilize your play action pass. It simplifies the defense. Brady can find the matchup that he wants. Gronk in the red zone. Cameron Brate running away from leveraged safeties. That play action chunk happens a little bit more for your offense. So they've got to stop thinking, how many different ways can we get the ball to the receivers, and start thinking, what's the best way to get the football to the receivers? Put your tight ends on the field. Run the football a little bit more. Use play action pass. Those receivers are good enough to win their one-on-one matchups, and they will. Please, because if you can't, I can't back you as a playoff contender.
Stop running it on first down. Okay, anyway, but they have had a well-timed bye week, Marcus. Maybe that helps them to get some of this figured out.
Yeah, man, I like what Key and Dan is saying, but in my mind, all I could hear when they was talking was, I just want to scream to Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich, figure it the hell out.
Yes.
Everybody wants the players that you have. Everybody wants to have that type of roster. Now we gonna cry about them having too many people. Oh, the downfall is they've given me too much talent. Man, get the hell out of here. When Brady went to Tampa, that was the reason he went there. It's because they already had Godwin and Mike Evans, and he wanted to bring in Rob Gronkowski, and O.J. Howard was already there, Cameron Brate. All of this talk about the weapons and Antonio Brown is the hell no, we've been talking about this before Antonio Brown entered the fray. So look, the bottom line is, when you have all of that talent, it is the responsibility of the coach to make sure it can go as planned.
You know, Marcus, it's very difficult, though, when you are not used to having 4 and 5 different guys at the skill position that you got to try to satisfy. It is true, though, yes, coaches get caught up in trying to satisfy guys that have a lot of talent because they don't want their talent to go to waste. That's why guys become good in this league. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, you can point to them and say, they got a lot of talent, but they're used to having that. Patrick Mahomes has never had a lack of talent. He's always had it. Tom Brady, on the other hand, this is all new to him. Yeah. He's still trying to figure out who's my guy. Whenever he gets into trouble, who's the first person he goes to? Gronkowski. Right. Because he knows that that's the guy that can get it done. I trust him.
Well, it's interesting, too, because you bring up the Chiefs. So much of that is they've got the scheme that works with all those weapons, which I think brings it back to our initial point here. Let's talk about one of those weapons for Tampa Bay, bringing back Adam Schefter for this, and some news coming in this afternoon on Mike Evans' health.
Well, Laura, before I get to that, I should say in Tampa, it's always the same rule in Tampa. Just get the ball to Key. Whatever you do, get the ball to Key in Tampa. As for Mike Evans.
Key hey, Adam, Key tried to have like a serious face for a second there, and he just couldn't even help it. Go ahead.
Go on, man. Leave me alone.
He still believes it. That's the thing. All right, as for Mike Evans, was limited in practice on Wednesday, but did not practice at all today. So basically a setback from where he was, or a step back from where he was yesterday, which has to be a little bit of a troubling sign for a team coming off a bye week, and he's gone from limited to not practicing at all one day to the next. So maybe it is a good idea to go 2 tight ends this weekend, work it inside out. Maybe they won't have the excellent wide receiver Mike Evans this weekend, in which case, keep throwing the ball to Key.
Yeah, there you go. That's always the answer. Hey, Evans not the only big name we're keeping an eye on in that division. What do we know about Drew Brees' status for this weekend?
Laura, the signs continue to point to Drew Brees not playing this weekend. Was present in practice today, was not going through the drills with the teams. However, obviously recovering from the 11 fractured ribs, the punctured lung, and it's a situation where basically right now it's shaping up as another start for Taysom Hill. As for Daniel Jones, limited in practice today due to the hamstring injury, but Joe Judge already said that he's optimistic that Jones will be out there on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. If he can't play, obviously Colt McCoy would be the backup, but right now the Giants are counting on Jones being there. As for Zeke Elliott, if the Cowboys are practicing, Zeke would not be out there due to a calf injury. In fact, they said that it's a situation where it's limited Wednesday. They don't expect him to practice much before Sunday. They play the Bengals. Maybe they'll be working in a little bit more Tony Pollard on Sunday against Cincinnati. Christian McCaffrey is not expected to play on Sunday against Denver, according to Matt Rule, the Panthers head coach, who held out McCaffrey from practice today due to a quad injury. McCaffrey's only played 3 games this season. Ankle, shoulder, now quad. Challenging season for McCaffrey at this point in time. And also in Washington, no practice today for running back Antonio Gibson. He's battling a case of turf toe. Doesn't look like he'll be ready to play on Sunday.
Adam, all over the latest injuries, all the news that you need right here on NFL Live, and huge playoff implications between the Raiders and Colts on Sunday. Both Marcus Spears and Keyshawn Johnson used the phrase Jekyll and Hyde when they pass along their notes on these teams. So that's why we got Jekyll and Hyde there in the middle. Marcus, give us the good and the bad for the Colts this season.
Jekyll and Hyde with the Indianapolis Colts. First, this team has looked magnificent at times. Offensively, they have put things together. Phillip Rivers stopped turning the football over. They've shown the strength of that team as far as their offensive line being able to run the football. They've done some really, really nice things with some really, really good wins this year. I want to know if Indy can keep that up, or will it be the opposite? Now, one can say, look, it's love, because in some of these games they still got wins. But against 3 AFC opponents that they would potentially have to see, they've lost these games. I know injuries played a part. Tennessee, obviously the loss to Cleveland, as you see here. So this team has been up and down. What concerns me, the last 3 games, giving up 32 points per game. And the defense is what we tout. It's time to start going, Colts, and being consistent.
Let me get to the Raiders here. When you think about the Raiders, the one positive that I take from anything that they've done is the vertical passing game. Bombs away. That is exactly what they do. They know how to push the ball down the field. Not traditional in the West Coast system. This changes a little bit because they got some speed to burn with Aguilar and Ruggs, and they get the ball underneath to the tight end. But then when you think about the bad side of it, it's the games that you see them get run out of the building, the secondary. They allowed the Atlanta Falcons to just take them straight to the woodshed. Or you think about what they're capable of doing in terms of trying to stop guys. It's got to be the linebackers and the defense front, because the secondary, they give up the yams. They allowed the Jets to just go ham on them. And that's not good at all. If you want to make the playoffs, you got to slow that thing down.
Hey, Key, yams and ham. John Gruden's on line 1. He's like, man, Keyshawn Johnson talking about my team here. It wasn't all positive.